Hello and welcome to an Edexcel GCSE past paper. This is paper 1, Principles of Computer Science 2020 onwards, specification 1 hour 30 minutes. My name is Mark Harrison and I'd like it very much if you'd like the video and subscribe to my channel. So this paper is out of 75 and you must use a black pen when filling it in. This is completely theory, so it will be done in a hall, under exam conditions, no computer required. So we'll jump in and get started on question 1, networks. A. Devices are connected to networks. Give 2 reasons for connecting computers in a network. So we need 1 and 2 for 2 marks there. Well, it's quite simple. We can share files and data. Number 2, we can communicate with each other. 2. Describe one way a local area network LAN is different from a wide area network WAN. So a local area network LAN covers a small geographical area, whereas a wide area network covers a large area. So think about the internet. That is the world's biggest WAN, a wide area network. 3. A network has a speed of 17.08 megabits per second. Identify the equivalent speed in bits per second. So you need to remember bits, bytes, kilobytes, megabytes. So 8 bits in a byte, 1,000 bytes in a kilobyte, 1,000 kilobytes in a megabyte. So the correct answer here is B, 17,080,000. So 17.08 multiplied by 1,000 times 1,000, or 1,000 squared. 4. Define the term latency. Latency is the delay in the network, and this means the delay between sending and receiving data. B. Data is split into packets for transmission over a network. Each device on a network has a unique identifier that is used when sending or receiving packets of data. State the name of the unique identifier. Here you can have IP address or MAC address. IP address is flexible and can change. MAC address is fixed and cannot change. 2. Identify the item included between the header and footer in the data packet. So A, B, C or D is of course A, data being sent. So between the header and footer is the actual data being sent itself. C. Describe how a firewall protects a local area network. It checks traffic on the network and using a set of rules, it decides if data is allowed or not allowed into or out of the network. And that is 2 marks. State the name of an email protocol. D. You can have POP3, Post Office Protocol. You can have SMTP or you can have IMAP. Any one of those is appropriate there. E. Explain one disadvantage of using a star topology. Well, it can be more expensive to set up because each device needs a cable to connect to the hub or the switch in the middle of the network. And that completes question 1 for 13 marks. This paper is really well labelled, really well set out. I quite like the direction Edexcel are going with this. Compared with the IGCSE, it's much clearer. So we've got section 2 there and it clearly says computers. I quite like that. A. Some low-level programming languages use mnemonics. State the purpose of a mnemonic. So we'd see a mnemonic in assembly language and it represents an instruction. 2. State the type of low-level programming language that uses mnemonics. I've just kind of answered that. It is, of course, assembly language. 3. Mnemonics are characteristics of some low-level languages. Describe one other characteristic of a low-level language. They are hardware or CPU to be exact, specific. They manipulate the hardware directly. 4. State the name of the high-level programming language translator that executes a line of code immediately after translating it. It is an interpreter. Do not use actual languages there. Stay away from things like Python, which of course is interpreter language, but don't use that. Just say interpreter. Okay, B. State the 2 items held in RAM according to von Neumann architecture. Is of course data and instructions. And that is 2 marks. C. Data can be stored in different ways. 1. Describe how data is stored on optical media. A laser heats areas of the disk. This creates bumps and pits which represent binary ones and zeros. 2. State the type of secondary storage that stores data as electric charges. The answer is solid-state drive. D. An embedded computer system is part of a larger machine. State 2 characteristics of embedded systems that make them different from general-purpose computers. They're generally very simple. They only do one task. They have limited processing capabilities, usually more ROM than RAM, limited user interface, less storage, smaller in size. Any of those, 1 mark each. E. Identify 2 reasons for using data compression. So we need 2 of these, and it's definitely A, reduces data transfer times. It's not B, it doesn't reduce disk. C, reduces required storage space. Absolutely. So that's 2, and that completes that question. F, robust software must be free from vulnerabilities before it's released to users. Programming bugs are one type of vulnerability. State 2 other types of vulnerability for 2 marks. It could have weak design and not enough testing. G, to complete question 2. Some users are given administrative privileges. Explain 1 way an operating system allows an administrator to manage users. Well, users can be added and removed so that multiple people can use the same computer. So I think about my computer. I've got my own login for this computer and my daughter's got a separate login. So multiple people can use the same computer, and that completes question 2 for a total of 18 marks. 3. Data. A. Computers manipulate binary patterns. Patterns can represent signed or unsigned integers. So what that means is positive or negative numbers. If it's signed, you see the most significant bit, it contains a 1 or 0. If it's 1, it's a negative number. If it's a 0, it's a positive. Convert the binary number 57 to 8-bit binary. Now to do this, I always draw out the table with the place values here, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. And we go through these and we place a 1 where we want the number and a 0 where we don't need it. So we don't need 128. We don't need 64, it's too much. We do need 32, so I'm going to place a 1 there. 16, 32 plus 16 gives me 48. So I do need that. You have to keep track of these as we go through. So what about the 8? 48 plus 8 is 56, so we're getting close now. So I make that, don't need a 4, 0, 0, 1. So 56 plus 1 is 57, and we can tell that's an odd number. There is a 1 in place value 1. So the correct answer is 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. And that is 2 marks. You get 1 mark per 4-bit nibble that you get correct. 2. Convert the binary number 00101101 into hexadecimal. Well, we look at the first there, 0010. We take it as 2 4-bit nibbles. So 1248. So we've got a 2 there. So the first number is a 2. I'm doing this without drawing a table, but you can use a table if you need to. And then 1101. So that is 8 plus 4 is 12. That's 13. So we remember back to our table. 0 to 9 are the same as in decimal, but in hexadecimal, A is 10, B is 11, C is 12, D is 13, E is 14, and F is 15. So I've got 13 there. So the correct answer there is 2D. And that is 2 marks. 3. Describe the process of converting a binary number to 2's complement. This is really simple. I've made multiple videos to this. I'll link one in the description. You simply flip the bits and add 1. All you have to do here is just describe the process. We do not need to actually do that. So 4. Explain what has happened as a result of adding these two 8-bit binary numbers. We've got an overflow and you've gone into the 9th bit. So if we look there, what we've got here, that's actually the 9th bit. So that's called an overflow. So you've lost that extra bit. You've gone into the 9th bit. You've only got 8, but you've gone into the 9th bit, which is an overflow error. B. After applying compression to a file, the original contents cannot be reconstructed fully. State the type of compression used on the file. That is lossy, because you've lost all that extra data, cannot get it back again. Unless, of course, you backed it up in the first place. You've got the original version, but if you haven't, you've lost that data. C. Data can be encoded using ASCII, American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Describe ASCII. So what exactly is ASCII? So it's a standard for representing all characters on an English keyboard. So it doesn't deal with Arabic, Chinese characters, for example. Up to 128 for standard and 256 for extended ASCII. D. 1. A pixel is the smallest element in a bitmap image. Two images are displayed on the same screen. One image is 1280 by 720 pixels. The second image is 1920 by 1080 pixels. The second image has a higher resolution. State one reason why the second image will be displayed in more detail. Well, it simply has more pixels. The number of pixels per square inch will be higher. 2. A 10-color bitmap image uses 15-bit color depth. So for each bit there, for each pixel, you have 15 bits. The image is 1028 pixels wide by 640 pixels high. Complete the expression to show the minimum file size for the image in mebibytes. That's MIB, not megabytes. That is MIB, mebibytes. You do not have to do the calculation. So it's 1028 on the horizontal by 640 on the vertical by 15-bit color depth. And all that is divided by 1024 times 1024, because 1024 would just be kibibytes, so we need that extra 1024. And then there are 8 bits in a byte, so we need to multiply it by 8. And that is our completed expression, and that completes question 3 for a total of 16 marks. Question 4. Issues and impact. Explain 1 reasons why files should be backed up regularly. Files should be backed up regularly to prevent loss of data, because malware, viruses, accidental deletion can destroy it. B. Consent must be obtained before organizations can use personal data. Give 2 pieces of information that organizations must tell people when requesting consent to use their personal data. Number 1, that they're given consent. And number 2, what the data is to be used for. C. Police forces use algorithms to help decide how many officers to deploy and where to send them. Discuss how algorithmic bias can affect the police decisions forces make. Your answer should consider the causes of algorithmic bias, the impacts on individuals and communities of algorithmic bias, the methods available to reduce the risk of algorithmic bias. So this is a 6 marker, so I need to cover all of those areas, all 3 of those areas: causes of algorithmic bias, impacts, and methods available to reduce it in my answer to get the maximum of 6 marks there. And just looking at the mark scheme here, for level 3, 5 to 6 marks, it needs to be a coherent and well-structured argument. So there is some mileage in perhaps planning this out, but I'm going to go straight in and answer this question. So we're starting off with the causes of algorithmic bias, and machine learning can be trained using insufficient or inappropriate data. So machine learning hasn't been trained well in the first place. You could have human bias, so human bias been put into the system, leading to discrimination and lack of fairness. So now we'll go and look at the impact on individuals and communities of algorithmic bias. So the key word: individuals and communities can feel as though they're being targeted as a result of algorithmic bias. They'll feel unfairly treated because of it. It could mean that police officers might be deployed to the wrong areas. Feedback loops might be created using historical data, so it prioritises resources to certain areas in the police. Then arrests will increase, further reinforcing the imbalance. So certain areas will feel like they're more targeted because of historical data. That might not be the case now, but because of the historical data, they have more police resources there, and it further increases the imbalance. So let's look at methods available to reduce the risk of algorithmic bias. So we might have auditing to enable identification and mitigation of systemic bias. It might make it open to scrutiny, more transparent. And we might involve communities in the development of the system so that there is less sense that there is that bias, and they've been involved in the development of the system. They're more likely to take ownership of it. So 6 marks, you need to demonstrate understanding of the key principles, a comprehensive understanding of the key principles. Discussion is well developed. You can use bullets, but make sure you write in sentences like I have there. Logical, structured, and make it clear. So I definitely use headings there, so the examiner can easily mark this and they can easily find where the 6 marks are. So I put the headings in there, which is exactly what the examiner wants to see. So make sure you do that for the 6 mark questions. So that completes question 4 for a total of 10 marks. Question 5, computational thinking. Here is an algorithm that prints colours. So you've got Python here. You've got ink colours there. You've got an array. Then you've got some comments there. Then you def display all. So you're creating a subroutine there, and the parameter in list has been passed into that subroutine. Then you've got for loop. Then you've got your main program from lines 10 onwards. So 1, state the type of data structure used to hold ink colours. It is an array. In Python, you'd call that a list. 2, give the contents of ink colours. 2, if you look back at the code, you start at 0, 0, cyan, 1, magenta, 2 is yellow. So that is our answer. That it is yellow. 3, state the name of the computational thinking technique used by the subprogram display all to hide the logic of printing. When we hide something like that, it's called abstraction. 4, state the name of the computational thinking technique used when separating logic into different blocks, such as the subprogram and the main program. That is decomposition. That's breaking the program down, decomposition. B, the algorithm searches a sorted array of numbers for a target value. The target value may or may not be in the array. The use of the bound variable helps to make the program algorithm efficient. Describe how the use of a passed variable also helps make the algorithm efficient. If the pass through the loop goes past the expected location of the target value, the third condition for the loop to execute will not be met. C, Laura owns a fruit shop. The program checks the weight of boxes of strawberries from Laura's shop. So here we have some code, and this does look like it's written in Python. So what we're asked to do is trace this through. The inputs are 404, 393, 395, 405. Complete the trace table showing the execution of the program with these inputs. You may not need to fill in all rows in the table, and that is 6 marks. Now, the way this breaks down in terms of marks is you get mark per column you get right. So we've got a column for count, so we can start filling that in. That goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got accept and reject, wait and display to complete. So while count, wait, accept, reject are all set to 0 in the first row. So we can do that now. So all of these set to 0 like that. So we'll go and have a look at this into our while loop. While count is less than 4, yeah, it is. Count equals count plus 1. So we've done that. Wait equals int input. Please enter weight of box. So our first weight is given is 404. We can put that in here. First weight we're given is 404. So that's put in there. That's our first input according to that list. If weight is less than 395 or weight greater than 405, it isn't, it's between those, else accept equals accept plus 1. So we can then accept that. We can put that in there because that's not going to be rejected. There's nothing to display there yet. So now we look at our second one, 393. So we're putting on here, count equals count plus 1, 393. So now we've taken the weight of 393 and we're going to check that against this. So if less than 395 it is, reject equals reject plus 1. So that's got to be rejected, I'm afraid. So in this line here, make sure it is in that line there, not the top one, not the one above, line 1. That is rejected, I'm afraid. So we take our next input, 395. So if weight is less than 395 or greater than 405, so 395 it isn't less than 395, so it's not going to be a reject. If it said less than or equal to 395 or less than 396, then it would be rejected, but that's going to be accepted. So accept equals accept plus 1. So another one there for accept. And I didn't put the weight in there, I should have done. So I'm not going to get the mark if I don't. That is 395 goes in there. So our final weight then, 405. So again, 405 isn't greater than 405. So that isn't true there. It is true of accept. That's going to be an accept. So what I should have done there is that should have been a 2 because that's accept equals accept plus 1. And this now is going to be a 3. My mistake there. And this was 405. So that completes that. Now, count is now 4, so we can come out of that while loop, print, accept, reject. So we're going to print that off. So output, accept, 3, and reject was 1. So that completes that trace table there for 6 marks. D, and this is actually the last question of the whole paper. An algorithm is required that allows the user to enter 2 numbers. The algorithm then informs the user which number is greater, or whether the 2 numbers are equal. The algorithm is expressed in a flowchart. Here are the flowchart symbols. So you've got terminator, process, decision, input, output. So you must use those shapes. Draw a flowchart to show this algorithm. So I'm going to talk you through it. I'm not going to draw on here, I'm going to do it in a PowerPoint because it's just easier for me. So we start with the terminator, always at the top of our algorithm. Then I'm going to take my input 1, I'm going to take my input num2, then I'm going to compare them. Is num1 equal to num2? If yes, display equals. If no, is num1 greater than num2? If yes, display num1 greater. If no, display num2 greater, and down the bottom, if I just move this down, it's gone off the screen unfortunately, didn't have enough space, we've got to stop a terminator at the bottom. So all of these outputs are going down to stop, and that is the completed flowchart. So make sure you use the correct symbols there, and you put the correct arrows in. So you've got yes and no. Marks are lost where this isn't drawn properly, it's not clear, or you don't have a stop at the end. Usually there is a stop and there's a loop back to the beginning. Make sure you do draw that correctly. I would always recommend using a ruler and a pencil for the shapes and a pen for the wording in there for maximum marks. So that is our completed flowchart. So that completes the whole of the paper for 75 marks. Now, again, please like and subscribe. It encourages me to do more of these videos. I will do the second paper, the practical Python. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.